Hello and welcome to the Transformation Project, a podcast and community for women who are looking to transform into the best version of themselves no matter where they are at. A place where you can listen, learn, and laugh along with us as we dive deep into different topics to help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled life. Remember, we are all learning here together, and therefore the content and opinions of the hosts and our guests should not be taken as medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Transformation Project. How's it going, Jess?
Yeah, I've had better weeks. I don't know if you can tell from my voice. I've lost it, and I'm very nasally. I'm on day 4 of COVID, so
hanging in there.
Hanging in there. Yeah, it's not actually that bad, to be honest. It's like I wouldn't even say a flu. It's like a cold. It's just more obviously having 2 young children. That's really the hardest part.
Yeah, well, that's the heads up for everybody that's listening. Jess's kids are home too. And so, as you know, we're moms, we roll with and we have our businesses from home, so we roll around what's happening in our lives.
Yeah.
So we may hear baby Asher in the background.
I think
at some point or whatever.
He'll be joining us at some point. Kinsey's going to go to dance class soon, but I think she'll behave herself till then. So.
We'll roll with it. Jess was not going to miss today. No. I have to tell you guys, I'm so excited about today's interview. Our guest for today, I have been doing a bit of Facebook stalking of this lady for, I want to say, about 1.5 years now. I originally saw her just doing stuff in our community, wherever there were kind of women in need or men in need for that matter. I would see herself or her husband's names pop up, and I was intrigued. And so, as I do, made Facebook friends with her, and I have been watching her ever since. And the more I have learned about this person, the more I am not only inspired by where she has come from, but also where she is going. So welcome on today, T. Taylor.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited about being on the show today. Thank you and Jess so much for inviting me on.
You are so welcome. Now, T, tell us a little bit about your background. Introduce people to you a little bit. You are always so incredibly honest, I have to say, and vulnerable about yourself and your family and your trials and challenges. So let's share a little bit with our audience and tell them a little bit about your story.
Yeah, sure. So I'm T and I'm 44 years old. I have 4 beautiful children. Actually, I have 5 beautiful children. One of my sons is one of our heaven babies. I have 2 beautiful grandchildren. I've been here, myself and my husband have been here in Brisbane, Australia for the last 11 years. We moved from New Zealand. And I guess my story starts from a really, really young age. I guess today I'm on here to discuss addiction and the challenges that we face through addiction. And, I become a heavy user of substances from the age of 14. So I grew up in an environment that was very hostile. My father was an alcoholic. My mother spent a lot of time, depressed, doing the best that she could do with the cards that she was dealt with, also dealing with a lot of loss and death in her family as well. So, we talk about what appears to the outside as people looking in. They think, oh, they've got the picture perfect family and everything looks great. But that sort of era, that time and era, a lot of things were swept under the carpet. So, there was never a great awareness around those personal trials and tribulations that were going on in the home. And so we grew up, myself and my sister grew up in an environment where we learned how to cover and mask things up pretty quickly. We knew that the home wasn't entirely a safe place under different circumstances. However, it was a safe place. From the age of 14, I started using weed or pot. Then I started getting into alcohol, started getting around the wrong crowd and mixing and mingling as we do, peer pressures and, all that kind of stuff. And obviously back then too, there was no awareness. There was no awareness around, what the repercussions were going to be of using substances. It just wasn't spoken of, We hid those things from our parents and all that kind of stuff. It was not something that was ever spoken openly and honestly in the home. So from there, I was with my partner then, who is the biological father to both of my sons. And together we used, and at that point we were just both sort of using weed, and we were drinking, and on the weekends we were delving into different recreational drugs that were available or accessible to us at the time. Not really thinking too much of it, we're just breezing through life and even thinking, we're just having fun. Then I fell pregnant with my first boy, my eldest son, and I was 18, so I was a teen mum. And that lifestyle didn't just stop there. We continued to use drugs, not throughout my pregnancy, however, but not long after I had him, we were sort of back into the swing of things. And then at 21, I had my second son, and it was repetitive. So, and then around about the age of 22, I had somebody offer me the drug ice. Now, back then, this drug was so new to the streets. Nobody knew anything about what this drug was about at all. So I had my first encounter with ice at the age of 23. And from there, I was pretty much hooked. It took one time. The feeling that I felt when I had it was very euphoric. I enjoyed the fact that it kept me up. I was able to clean my whole house, just immense amounts of energy. I felt invincible. And I fell in love with it, and I can safely say that I fell in love with it. Over the period of 6 months, my life started to really spiral out of control. Me and my partner, the boy's father at the time, we separated due to the use of ice, and we had not long brought a home together. And so I lost all of that as well. And at the time, I lost both of my sons to family. Could have most definitely almost lost them to the state or to child services. However, my family stepped in and took both my boys, as I was not in the right frame of mind to even be capable of making those. I was a totally different person. I was within 6 months to a year, I was extremely, totally different person. So that's sort of where that part of that journey began.
Yeah. And I have to say, I can't remember now, thinking back as a young person, the sort of drug messages and things that we're getting now, or the knowledge around what was going on. I mean, I was raised in South Africa anyway, so, but I don't recall having those discussions necessarily with my mom. I had one experience with marijuana when I was 14 with a friend of mine at a holiday resort. And it made such an impression on me that I've never taken any drugs since then. So it was bizarre, because it was my husband's that was definitely not just weed, whatever that was. But I decided we were at this holiday resort, and there was a river running down below the pool area where we were. And so I was like, I'm going to jump in the river. This is hilarious. I'm going to just jump in. And one of the boys that happened to be with me reached out and grabbed me and pulled me back. And when we went back the next day, I had a look over where I was going to jump in the river, and the river was super far away. Like I would have jumped to my death on the rocks. And that one experience was like, okay, that was terrible. I'm never doing that again. And it put the fear of God into me that I was never able to. It was something that I was never confident enough to even try anything after that. So I wonder if something like that as a young age, it's like how you respond to that is then how it goes forward for you, or, you know, what do you think it was within you that brought you to use that and carry on with it?
I think now, knowing what I know now, a lot of it was that escape from reality. So there were so many traumatic experiences throughout my upbringing, and different dysfunctions and different things that happened throughout my upbringing that caused me to sort of come into a state where I found that no matter what was happening, that escape from reality outweighed any kind of logical or practical common sense. And it didn't really matter. I mean, I got into crime, you know, doing just criminal things that I would never ever think about doing. You know, obviously this sort of happened after I started smoking ice, and I just, as I said, I just changed into a completely different person. I became unrecognizable, and it was that escape from reality. I was able to go to a place where I didn't have to feel. With the drug ice, it really numbs your senses and more so your feelings. So you think about people now, and you look at society, and they say, oh, you know, these people were going and doing ram raids, or they were, you know, really, most of those people are probably on ice, and because they have no fear, you know, you truly believe you're invincible. And once you're hooked on it, there's nothing that will sort of change that feeling, because you love the escape of reality more than anything else. Can
I ask, how long were you addicted to ice for?
8 years.
8 years.
18.
18. Oh my gosh, sorry. 18.
Yeah. 18 years.
So what did those 18 years look like? So you had 2 boys who were taken from you.
Yep.
Yeah. What did that look like with a family?
So that was devastating. Obviously, that was really devastating for the family. At the time, my mum's such an amazing woman. You know, she knew nothing of what was going on with me. She just knew that there's something wrong with my daughter. There's something, we don't recognise her. She's doing all these things that are out of character. And I guess coming back to the fact that prior to me even smoking ice, regardless of whether I was drinking alcohol or smoking a bit of pot, I still worked, and I still loved my babies, and they always came first. My sons always came first, and I functioned, you know. So the minute that I became addicted to ice, that picture changed so quickly, along with me as a person, along with me visually as a person. You know, me and my mum often talk about it, and she says to me, you know, she just looked at me and she just thought, who is this person? You know, I lost dramatic amounts of weight. I went through a process of where I would pick my skin. You know, I'd pick my skin. I would pluck my eyebrows until they bled. Just horrific stuff. You know, and I also then met my now husband, who at the time, he was a drug dealer. So he was heavily involved in gangs and things like that in New Zealand. And then from that, my addiction became even more enormous, because I no longer had to pay for it. I didn't have to find a way to pay for it. It was just so accessible. And he was just giving it to me. And so I think the amazing part about the journey that we're on now, we're doing it together in sobriety. You know, we both came into a place where we decided enough was enough. However, the 18 years in between where we were both addicted, and he was also an alcoholic, so it wasn't just the drugs, it was alcohol as well, which caused domestic violence. So there was a lot of domestic violence in our home. You know, my health wasn't the best. And then I was having babies. So I had my daughters and I had a son in between. And unfortunately, I lost my son to stillbirth. And that was, you know, that was something that just tore me apart, because the guilt of knowing that the drugs has affected me so much that I was not even able to, you know, I mean, look, it could have been something else, but I harbored that guilt and I carried it for a long, long time. And only coming into my sobriety did I learn how to deal with that grief, that I was so grief stricken. So there was drug dealing. We were moving around homes. And then we moved from New Zealand to here in Australia. And both myself and my husband had sort of decided at that point that we needed to get away. We wanted a better life. We moved from New Zealand, we came here, and well, we fell straight. We basically went from the fry pan into the deep fry. So at the time when we came here, we were unaware that a really close relative of ours was actually involved with the gangs here and had a larger scale of. So instantly we fell into that. And then we spent the next eight to 9 years here in Australia, you know, in a whole different country with our children, trying to battle addiction and navigate our way around a new country. We moved here with our babies, with our 4 children, $1,000 to our name, and we just had to try and make it work. And there were so many challenges and so many tears, and just, when I think back, I just think to myself, how the heck did I survive any of that?
Well, that's really the question.
That's what I was going to say.
Like the fact that you are both here, that you're both alive, that your children are all here, that you're all together and alive. I mean, that on its own is a complete miracle. I mean, you were clearly meant for something more, T. Clearly, the both of you. So tell me, what was that turning point where, you know, from that, where you both decided that you wanted to get clean and sober? And what did that look like? How did you do that?
Yep. So I came to a point where I was completely and utterly exhausted. There wasn't, you know, I had nothing left in me. And at that point, which was 3.5 years or 4 years ago, I was completely suicidal. There was only 2 ways out. There were only 2 options for me at that point. And one was to change my life around, but at the time, where was I going to start? How does this even look? I didn't even know where to start. That was the biggest thing. And the other thing was through death, through suicide. So I had contemplated for sure, you know, my own death, which is unreal. You know, I remember premeditating the whole thing. I had the whole thing planned out. And you know, my son came to me, and which I just think is an absolute miracle. You know, it was an absolute godsend at the time. He came to me and he said, this was a day before I was actually going to do what I was about to do. And he said, Mum, you're going to be a grandmother. And I just was like, what? Wow. And I remember crying. I just bawled my eyes out. That was it. Broke down. And I knew right then in my heart and in my spirit that I had to fight. I had to fight. And if I was going to do this, I had to do it right. You know, I couldn't allow I couldn't be a grandmother. I couldn't be a grandmother and be this way. You know what I mean? It was hard enough trying to come to the realization or that accountability that I had been that mother for my children, let alone having a grandchild come into the world and running that same cycle, you know? And I just thought, no way. So I didn't commit suicide because I'm here today.
And there are a lot of people that are very grateful for that, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. And from that day, I said to my husband, I don't want to be with you anymore. I don't want this life. I don't want this life. I want something better for me and my children, and I want to be the best grandmother, the best mother, the best grandmother, the best woman that I can be. I don't know what the heck that looks like right now, but I'm willing to do what it takes to get there. So with that, I walked into a program which I think you may be aware of, which is where you would have seen me, and that was a sisterhood program. Amazing program, beautiful program. Like-minded women that have been through very similar things, an open space, a confidential space, just a really, really comfortable space for me to go and share. 15-week program. In that 15 weeks, I uncovered and unlocked so many things about myself that led me to just understand that I was on the right path. It was painful. It was actually very, very painful because all of a sudden I had become aware. I had to deal with the stuff that I had been masking for so many years. I was confronted. I was accountable. I was now responsible for my addiction. I was now responsible for my healing. I was now responsible for my future, not just my future, but my children's future and my grandbaby's future, and what does this look like? So from there, I graduated my 15-week program. In the process, my husband, he was still heavily drinking. Now, he was trying to find a place to move into at the time. He went to 3 different places, and for some unknown reason, well, we know now why, but then for some unknown reason, he kept getting turned away. He had all the pay slips, he had everything, but they'd just say, no, we've picked somebody else. Now he stayed for the duration of my 15-week program. He was at no point wanting to change who he was. He believed he didn't have a problem. He was fine. He was all good. And he was quite happy to let the family, go by the wayside. He came to my graduation, which happened to be down at the Destiny Church. And we sat through the sermon. I graduated. I went down the front. I got my certificate with a few other beautiful women that graduated from different things. And then we sat through the sermon, and church was not for us. we weren't churches, And at the end of the sermon, my husband stood up and he just looked down at me and he said to me, "Shall we go down the front?" And I just remember thinking to myself, you have got to be kidding me. However, I didn't even question it. I just grabbed his hand and I let him take me down the front. Went down the front, we got prayed over, we gave our hearts to Christ that day, and we have not looked back since.
Wow. I'm going to say I'm happy everyone thinks I have COVID because you can't tell if I'm crying or if I just sound like this naturally. I can't even put it into words how amazing your story is, and amazing that you're sitting here sharing it on the other side. I know the answer to this, but I want you to share it with our viewers. It's COVID, I swear. What?
Now I'm getting COVID.
We'll all blame it on COVID. I'm so awestruck. Sorry. My question, I mean, like I said, I know the answer to this, but what are you doing? What are you and your husband doing now to help other people with what all this?
So my husband has sort of stepped away from the role of helping people in a sense. However, should somebody come to him, a male or a family that we need to go and sort of minister to, he is definitely 100% on board. We are currently business owners, so that came to fruition pretty quickly on our journey. And our business has been running since 2019, and we called our business Kingdom Bathrooms. And the reason we called it Kingdom Bathrooms was because we believed that this business had launched out of the kingdom of God. So our business has flourished ever since, and my husband and my older son have been completely 100% on their toes with it. In the process, I then became a facilitator for the sisterhood program, and I helped. I wouldn't say helped. I'm not going to say helped, but I was a reference point for other women that needed guidance or that were going through something very similar. And I was so honoured and privileged to be able to support and guide other women into being the best version of themselves and finding who they are, and knowing that, you know, that we do overcome and that we can overcome, and with the right people in our corner, you know, that is all possible. And then I stepped away from that to have a little break. And then I was launched into AAIC. So AAIC is short for Australian Anti-Ice Campaign. They're an organisation that help people that are currently addicted or that are in recovery, and also help indirects. So what we refer to as indirects are family members that may have somebody, may have a loved one that's going through addiction, and they don't quite understand what's happening, but they need that support. So AAIC is a beautiful organisation for any families that are going through that. And yeah, I became a buddy there, which was also helping, doing exactly the same thing, just supporting and guiding other women. And then in 2020, I won an award in Brisbane, which I never even expected in a million years. I was absolutely floored. I was so floored by this. Out of 200 women that were in this convention centre, and my name was called out to win a Fearless Woman Overcoming Adversity Award. And I just thought, you've got to be kidding me. Like, me? Little old me. So that happened. And from there, I've been interviewed. I've gone into the Logan magazines. I've gone onto different platforms where they've asked me to come on and share my testimony. And just of late, I am now a qualified support worker working in mental health and addictions. So I work with, I have the privilege and the honour of working directly with people that are going through what I have been through. And I guess having the life experience, you become so relatable to people that are going through the journey, or are wanting to start the journey but don't know where to start, you know. And I just, I've done so much, and I don't even think it's on my terms. I just believe that God has just made a way, you know. He's just really made a way for me. He's like, well, you know, you've been so faithful with your sobriety, and you've just been so faithful in the sense of giving to other people and showing people a way out, you know. So I knew at a pretty early stage of my of my recovery, that I was going to heal, and I was going to heal, and I was going to recover, and I was going to heal, and I was going to recover. And then eventually I was going to be in a place where I was going to be able to put my hand back and say to people, I know a way out.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. So much of what you've done, and this is something that I talk about a lot, is that everything that you do in your life, there's two things. One, out of every dark cloud, there is always a silver lining every time, if you look hard enough for it. And two, everything in your life is about choices. And to me, it almost seems, when I watch what you do, and just to consider everybody, that this is just the last 4 years, right? That this has happened, that you've done all these things and helped all these people. And I can see you active all the time. I mean, when I first saw you, it was through Sisterhood, just happened to be on my community group, but I just kept seeing this name, and I kept seeing just the amount of people around you that were clearly looking up to you, and I could see that. And I think it's just those choices that you keep making that land you in the place to take that next step. And so many steps. I think you and I even had this discussion in a messenger chat where I was like, it isn't until you sit and look back, when we were talking about what your story, when you kind of went, wow, actually the growth is astounding in that time.
Yeah.
Astounding.
Yeah.
So tell me, if somebody is listening and they are either an addict or a family member of an addict, what would you say to an addict right now who's listening to this, somebody who's listening to this podcast right now?
Yeah, I would say that it can be done, and that no matter what you're feeling, and no matter what you're going through, that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always somebody there who understands. And I think that's really important for anybody in addiction to know that there are people that understand the journey. There are people that have journeyed into recovery, and we are that light for so many people that are still stuck in addiction. And that, as I said earlier, I can reach my hand back and I can show you the way. And it's not just about me, but being able to sort of show people and guide people into different organizations and programs and other people, and connecting and networking and stuff like that, in order for them to be able to grow and work through their recovery. And I just want to say, if after 18 years of everything that I've been through, if I can do it, you can. To any family members or families out there that may be going through as indirects, where you have a loved one that is currently addicted to ice or any form of drugs or substance abuse, I think the best thing, or the best advice that I can give you, is don't give up. Don't give up, and if you can, get yourself into a support group, and learn and understand a bit more about things you might not understand. So if you're unsure about what the drug is, learn a bit more about it. I'm always available. I'm always open to take those messages and those phone calls to give people better understanding around what it is that they're actually dealing with, because a lot of family members, they don't understand what this drug is about. So once you understand what the drug does and how destructive it is and how it changes a person, and your loved one is now no longer a person that you recognize, I think it helps that process of knowing how to deal with them. Unconditional love is really important. However, with unconditional love, there must be boundaries. With all addicts, they will most definitely 100% overstep every boundary known to mankind. So as long as we're showing love from the right place, but we've got clear boundaries, and definitely reaching out to those support networks that are available out there.
So T, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best place to reach you?
So they could reach me on my Facebook page, which is T Pupuki Taylor. And I also have a Facebook page, which is Fearless Woman Overcoming Addictions. So they can reach me there. You can also reach me on my email address, which is Tania Vaia21@gmail.com. So that's about TANIAVAIA21@gmail.com. There's also other programs that you can find through Facebook, and that is AAIC, which is Australian Anti-Ice Campaign. They are active on Facebook all the time. There are contact numbers there that are available. There are email addresses, also to Sisterhood and Man Up programs. They are also on Facebook. So if you look up Sisterhood Brisbane Gold Coast or Man Up Brisbane Gold Coast, you will find those. There's also one in Bentley called Reform House. A beautiful lady runs that program. She's amazing. She herself has a wonderful testimony. She's really just an outstanding woman. And Lives Lived Well. Now, these are all accessible on Facebook or online.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. Jess, have you recovered?
I have. I've composed myself. Yeah, sorry. I blame it on COVID and having little babies of my own. I just couldn't. Exactly what you said about becoming a grandma. Like, here I got COVID again. Here over here. I'm just gonna stop talking. And just wanting. Sometimes it's not about you. It's almost more what you'll do for other people. And it just. Yeah, I can't talk anymore. Thank you.
Bless your heart. And that's exactly, I guess that's exactly right. I think we see that every day with women. They'll so often do things for others that they won't do for themselves. And I think what a blessing that little miracle baby was put there at that exact time.
Yeah, she definitely was. And I have two grandchildren, and but she is definitely my little shining light. And it's not that I don't love my children, and they should have been enough. However, it is just the way that the cards were dealt. And I guess when I look back now and I think, far out, all that time and addiction and all the things that I went through, they really were such a training ground for where I am today, and what was needed for me to be in different positions and platforms and stuff like that, even to be here, speaking and sharing my journey. And I look at my children, and my children are amazing. My children are absolutely amazing. I couldn't ask for better children. A couple of, my son who's got the babies, he's struggled a small portion. However, when I think about what they have been through and what they've experienced and what they've seen from a young age, they are so resilient and they're so strong, and they couldn't be more proud of the woman that I am today, and they make that known to me all the time, and I just look at them and I think, thank God that I didn't do what I was going to do, and as you said, I think there was other plans for me, and they're already in the making.
Yeah, absolutely. See, now I've got COVID. Well, it's an incredible privilege to watch your journey. I'm so excited for everything that's still to come for you. I get very excited because there's these new things that are coming all the time. It's wonderful to watch all these women who I can see that you are touching on your posts. So thank you so much for coming in today. For everybody who's listening, thank you so much for listening. We will put these links in our show notes to make sure that you can access those. if you need help, please make sure you reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Transformation Project today.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful evening. Thank you.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of the Transformation Project. The Transformation Project is not just a podcast, we're also a community. We're a collective of like-minded people all around the world seeking to live their best life and raise each other up. We're looking to support you, set goals, get healthier, connect with yourself and others at a deeper level, and better understand yourself and the world around you. We're always looking to link arms with like-minded people wanting to create more out of life. You can connect with us via our website, which is www.thetransformationproject.net.au. Email us at support@thetransformationproject.net.au, or simply listen in to one of our podcast episodes, which can be found on all podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can even watch some of our episodes on our YouTube channel, simply called The Transformation Project. Please like and subscribe to make sure you hear all the incredible shows and guests we have lined up. If you have any feedback or any comment, we would love to hear those, as well as any ideas or guests that you think we should be interviewing in future. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Transformation Project.